Carl Jung uncovered something that would forever transform our comprehension of psychological combat. He witnessed that when a narcissist recognizes you have become excessively conscious, excessively aware, and excessively dangerous to control, they do not merely withdraw. Instead, they deploy a final desperate strategy, a psychological maneuver so profound it is engineered to obliterate your reality and turn your entire world against you. This isn't simply an intensification of their earlier tactics. It is a complete reversal of reality itself. It is the final and most toxic strike of a cornered psyche, born from the terror of being authentically perceived. Jung's work reveals that this ultimate maneuver is not evidence of your impending failure, but rather the final undeniable confirmation of your psychological triumph. It is the desperate action they execute only when they know on an unconscious level that you have already prevailed. Within the expansive architecture of the human psyche, Carl Jung identified a crucial structure he termed the persona. This is the mask we display to the world, the carefully curated collection of social roles and personality characteristics we deem acceptable for public presentation. For most, the persona is a flexible and functional interface between our inner self and the external world, a tool for navigating social terrain. But Jung's explorations into the minds of deeply narcissistic individuals uncovered a chilling anomaly. For the narcissist, the persona is not a tool. It is a fortress. It is not a mask they wear, but the hollow idol they worship as their very identity. Their entire sense of self is fused with this fragile external construct of superiority, magnetism, and perfection. There arrives a moment, however, in your interaction with such an individual that is as quiet and as devastating as a fault line appearing in solid ground. It is the moment you perceive the truth. Not through confrontation, not through argument, but through simple, unclouded perception. You see the fear behind the arrogance, the emptiness behind the grandiosity, the frightened child pulling the levers of a menacing machine. In that instant, your perception becomes a mirror. And the reflection it reveals to them is not the flawless deity of their persona, but the writhing, repressed chaos of their true inner state. This is a moment of profound psychological crisis for the narcissist. The mask which has shielded them from their own deep-seated feelings of worthlessness has been rendered transparent by your awareness. They experience this shift not as an intellectual disagreement, but as a fundamental threat to their existence. Your clarity is in existential danger because it proves that their entire identity is a construct, a lie they can no longer force you to believe. When you stop participating in their manufactured reality, the fortress of their persona begins to crumble, and the psychological entity trapped within panics. It is from this panic that their most insidious tactics are born. They cannot allow a mirror like you to exist, for your clear reflection threatens to force them into contact with the one thing they have spent their entire lives fleeing, their own authentic, unadorned self. They must shatter the mirror, not because you are their enemy, but because you represent a truth they cannot bear to face. Their war is not truly with you. It is a war against consciousness itself, and you have just become its unwilling champion. This is the beginning of the end, the threshold from which they will launch their final, most desperate campaign. They must extinguish the light of your awareness to plunge the world back into the comfortable darkness where their illusions can survive. The attack that is coming is not a reaction to something you have done, but a reaction to what you have become, someone who can no longer be deceived. You have graduated from being a source of supply to being a threat to their entire psychological structure. In the next part, you'll discover the first subtle movements in this new war, the chilling, psychological reconnaissance the narcissist conducts when they realize their usual methods of control have begun to fail. If the journey of seeing through illusion and reclaiming your own perception resonates with you, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We are dedicated to exploring the depths of the psyche and providing the tools for profound personal transformation. Carl Jung taught that every human being possesses a shadow, the vast unconscious repository of all the aspects of ourselves we have repressed, disowned, and refused to acknowledge. It is the home of our hidden fears, our secret shames, and our unexpressed rage. Most people engage in a lifelong dance with their shadow, slowly learning to integrate its wisdom. The narcissist, however, does not dance with their shadow. They cage it, deny it, and project it onto others with ferocious intensity. They cannot bear to own their darkness, so they strive to see it everywhere but within themselves. When you become too dangerous to manipulate, you trigger a profound crisis in this dynamic. Your immunity to their control means you are no longer a passive screen for their projections. Their shadow, once comfortably outsourced to you, begins to recoil back toward them. And this is a terror they cannot abide. This initiates what Jung's work identifies as the first stage of their final campaign, the testing phase. This is not a series of random provocations, but a highly strategic, though often unconscious, form of psychological reconnaissance. The narcissist begins to probe your boundaries with a chilling precision. These are not the grand, explosive attacks that may come later. They are subtle, almost imperceptible, tests designed to find the hairline fractures in your newfound resolve. They are looking for what Jung might call psychological weak points, the old emotional pathways where their manipulation once flowed freely. They might make a backhanded compliment that sounds like praise, but feels like a sting. They might subtly rewrite a past event to see if you will still accept their version of reality over your own memory. They might feign a moment of vulnerability to test if they can still hook your empathy and pull you back into the role of caretaker for their manufactured pain. Each of these tests is a whisper from their shadow, an attempt to see if their darkness can still find a home in you. They are studying your reactions with the intensity of a predator. They are not listening to your words, but are sensing the energy behind them. Do you respond with confident detachment, or is there a flicker of the old self-doubt? Do you hold your boundary with quiet strength, or do you over-explain and justify your position, revealing an ongoing need for their approval? Jung understood that this phase is critical. If you successfully and consistently resist these initial probes, you do not pass a test and find peace. Instead, you confirm their deepest fear. You have fundamentally changed. You have sealed the entry points they once used to poison your psyche. By resisting, you have officially marked yourself as a formidable threat. You have demonstrated that you are no longer a participant in their psychological games. This realization does not inspire them to respect you. It terrifies them. It signals that their primary defense mechanisms are failing. The narcissist is now conducting what could be termed psychological cartography, mapping the defenses of a fortress they once occupied freely. They are identifying the strength of your walls, the depth of your moat, and the sharpness of your newfound discernment. And everything they learn during this phase is not used to find a path to reconciliation, but to plan a much larger, more devastating siege. Your strength does not deter them. It forces them to escalate their strategy from subtle manipulation to outright psychological warfare. I'd love to hear from your own journey of awakening. Have you ever felt that chilling moment when you calmly resisted a manipulative probe and sensed a fundamental shift in the dynamic, a silent declaration of a new kind of war? If so, comment below with the word clarity to join a community of voices who understand this profound and often isolating moment of transformation. In the next part, you'll discover what happens when this reconnaissance ends and the narcissist, realizing their subtle tactics are useless, unleashes the full force of their compensatory rage in a terrifying escalation phase. When the narcissist's subtle probes and tests shatter against the calm wall of your integrated consciousness, a profound psychological shift occurs within them. Carl Jung spoke of a principle he termed enantiodromia, where anything taken to its extreme will inevitably flip into its opposite. For the narcissist, whose entire existence is an extreme defense against feelings of powerlessness, the loss of control over you triggers a violent swing into what Jung's work calls compensatory behavior. They do not accept defeat. They overcompensate for their failing influence by becoming monstrously aggressive in their attempts to regain it. This is the escalation phase, and it is a psychological tempest designed to erode your sanity and break your spirit under relentless pressure. This is the point where manipulation evolves into overt psychological warfare. The narcissist's tactics become more intense, more frequent, and more brazen. The gaslighting, which was once a subtle distortion of your reality, now becomes a direct assault on your sanity. They will flatly deny events you both know occurred, invent conversations that never happened, and insist your memories are the product of instability or malice. They do this not just to make you doubt a specific event, but to make you doubt the very instrument of your perception, your own mind. Jung understood that a person who does not trust their own mind becomes infinitely malleable and controllable. They are trying to sever the connection to your own intuition, the very source of the power that made you dangerous to them in the first place. Simultaneously, their use of projection intensifies to an almost surreal degree. The shadow they can no longer unconsciously place within you is now hurled at you with conscious force. Every toxic trait they possess, every manipulative behavior they engage in, is now attributed to you. They will accuse you of being the manipulative one, the abusive one, the selfish one. This is more than a simple defense mechanism. It is a strategic attempt to create a smokescreen of confusion so dense that you begin to question your own character. They are trying to recreate you in the image of their own shadow to force you to wear the mask of their darkness so they can continue to see themselves as figures of light. It is during this terrifying phase that the narcissist often reveals the true depth of their insidious nature by recruiting others into their campaign. Jung observed that certain personalities, when threatened, will instinctively seek to create a mob to validate their distorted reality through the consensus of others. The narcissist will begin to enlist what are commonly known as flying monkeys. They will share carefully crafted stories of your supposed transgressions with friends, family, or colleagues, presenting themselves as the concerned, wounded party. They are masterful at identifying and exploiting the empathy of others, turning good people into unwitting weapons in their war against you. This is a sophisticated and devastating strategy because it attacks not just your reality, but your social foundation. It is designed to isolate you, to make you feel as though you are the single unstable element in a world of rational people who have all seen your true colors. The goal of this escalating storm is to create a psychological environment so hostile and confusing that you break under the pressure and return to a state of compliance just to make the chaos stop. In the next part, you'll discover the chilling moment of recognition, when the narcissist finally accepts that even this overwhelming assault has failed, and what happens when this realization pushes them past the breaking point into a state of narcissistic mortification, triggering the one final dirty trick that Jung warned could be the most devastating of all. There comes a moment in this psychological war when the narcissist's escalating storm of aggression, gaslighting, and projection fails to find its mark. Your anchor not only holds, but your calm defiance reveals the storm to be nothing more than a tempest in a teacup, a chaotic display of impotent rage. For the narcissist, this is not a simple defeat. It is a moment of profound existential annihilation. This is the final, irrefutable confirmation that they have completely and utterly lost all control over you, and by extension over the reality they so desperately need to dictate. This realization, according to the deepest insights of Jungian theory, plunges them into a state of absolute psychological terror, known as narcissistic mortification. It is not merely a wound to their ego. It is a psychic death. The hollow deity they constructed as their identity is shattered, and through the cracks they are forced into a horrifying intimacy with the vast, shrieking emptiness they have spent their entire lives fleeing. This is the ultimate catastrophe, for it exposes their deep-seated primordial feelings of worthlessness, not as a distant threat, but as the very ground of their being. It is from the abyss of this mortification, from the epicenter of this psychic death, that they unleash their final and most diabolical weapon. This is not another tactic in their playbook. It is a complete reimagining of the game itself. It is the master trick, the grand, perverse miracle of their manipulative theater. When a narcissist can no longer control you, they attempt what Jung's work identifies as a complete psychological inversion. This is not just an act of lying or reframing. It is a desperate, chaotic attempt at a form of psychic sorcery. They endeavor to flip the entire moral and energetic reality of your relationship on its head. In this final, terrifying act, the narcissist, who has been the aggressor, the manipulator and the source of psychological poison, meticulously and with breathtaking conviction, recast themselves in the role of the innocent, wounded victim. And you, the one who has weathered the storm, held fast to your sanity and endured the relentless assault, are painted as the cruel, unhinged, and malicious aggressor. This is not a simple lie told to others. It is a new reality they are trying to birth into existence, a delusion they must inhabit to save themselves from the unbearable truth of their own inner void. This great inversion is the ultimate expression of what Jung called shadow projection. Throughout the relationship, they have projected their disowned flaws and darkness onto you. Now, in their state of collapse, they are not just projecting a few traits. They are attempting a total psychic evacuation. They are trying to take the entirety of their unbearable shame, their collapsed ego, and their searing mortification and transplant it into your soul. They seek to make you the living effigy of their own failure. Every boundary you set is retroactively reframed as an act of calculated cruelty. Your moments of self-respect are rewritten as displays of stunning arrogance. Your refusal to participate in their psychological games is presented as a sophisticated campaign of abuse directed at them. They become the frantic, obsessive historians of a past that never happened, meticulously curating a narrative of their long-suffering innocence and your monstrous villainy. Their conviction in this new reality is what makes it so chillingly effective, for in that moment they are not merely acting. They believe their own script with the desperation of a drowning person clinging to a piece of wreckage. What makes this tactic so profoundly dangerous and effective is that it moves beyond personal lies and hijacks the very currents of human consciousness. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a shared psychic inheritance of primal patterns and instincts that all of humanity draws from. Within this deep well are the archetypes, the primal blueprints of the soul, such as the hero, the mother, the trickster, and the victim. These archetypes are not just ideas. They are immense constellations of psychic energy that command our unconscious respect and attention. The narcissist, in their final gambit, performs an act of profound archetypal sacrilege. They wrap themselves in the sacred robes of the victim archetype. The victim is a powerful and holy figure in the human psyche. It is the archetype that calls forth our noblest instincts of compassion, protection, and justice. When we see a true victim, our very souls are moved to act. The narcissist instinctively understands this. They perform the role with masterful precision, feigning a vulnerability and sorrow that bypasses the critical thinking of those around you and speaks directly to their unconscious archetypal programming. Simultaneously, they cast you in the opposite role, the cold, calculating persecutor. This is more than name-calling. It is a deliberate act of psychological excommunication. They are attempting to place you outside the sacred circle of human compassion, to brand you as the other, so that the collective's protective instincts, which should be directed toward you, are instead turned against you. They are hijacking the very systems of human empathy and weaponizing them. This is why this final campaign feels like a cosmic injustice. It is a violation of a deep, unspoken spiritual law. They are using a holy symbol to conceal a malevolent intent, and the world, responding to the symbol rather than the reality, unknowingly participates in the desecration. They are not just trying to win an argument. They are trying to manipulate the very soul of your community, turning your support system into a mob that validates their delusion and ensures your complete and utter isolation. The ultimate goal of this grand inversion transcends mere social isolation or reputational damage. The true aim is something far more sinister. It is an attempt at what can only be described as soul murder. The narcissist's final wish is not just for you to be alone. It is for you to look in the mirror and see the monster they have created. It is for you to become so lost in the fog of their reality, so abandoned by your community, so exhausted by the fight, that you finally collapse and accept their narrative as your own. Their goal is to extinguish the light of your authentic self, to make you doubt your own goodness, your own sanity, and your own right to exist. They want you to believe, in the deepest chambers of your heart, that you are the abuser, that you are the villain, that you are the cause of all the pain. It is the final desperate act of a dying psychic entity attempting to take you down with it. It is psychological terrorism of the highest order, designed not just to silence you, but to annihilate your connection to your own soul, leaving you a hollow echo in a world they have completely and successfully redefined. In the next part, you'll discover the precise mechanics of how they execute this devastating smear campaign. From the insidious technique of truth sandwiching to the systematic assassination of your character, revealing why their lies can feel so terrifyingly believable to others. The Great Inversion, where the narcissist casts themselves as the victim and you as the aggressor, is not executed with the clumsy, obvious lies of a common deceiver. It is a masterpiece of psychological manipulation, a carefully orchestrated and chillingly effective smear campaign built upon a deep, intuitive understanding of the vulnerabilities of the human psyche. Carl Jung's work revealed that narcissists are often unconscious masters of manipulating group psychology, and their final campaign against you is their grand, tragic performance. They do not simply shout accusations from the rooftops. They construct an elaborate psychological theater, complete with a meticulously crafted script, a villainous caricature of you, and a performance so compelling it can turn an audience of your allies into their unwitting accomplices. To understand this is to understand why their lies can feel so terrifyingly believable to others, and why this phase of the assault can feel so profoundly isolating. The foundation of this entire theater is the script itself, and its brilliance lies in its insidious plausibility. The narcissist rarely begins their campaign with a blatant, easily disproven falsehood. Instead, they employ a technique that can be described as truth sandwiching, a method of weaving threads of verifiable fact with the insidious poison of their core, deception. Jung observed that the human mind struggles to dissect information that blends the true with the false. We have a natural tendency to accept a narrative package as a whole. The narcissist exploits this cognitive flaw with the precision of a master storyteller. They will begin their tale to a friend, a family member, or a colleague not with an accusation, but with a series of undeniable truths. They will describe a real event that occurred, a real conversation that took place, or a genuine aspect of your personality, thereby establishing an immediate baseline of credibility. You know how passionate and intense they can be. They might begin a statement which may be perfectly true. "We were talking last Tuesday right after that stressful meeting," they will continue, grounding the story in a verifiable time and place. It is only once this foundation of truth is laid, once the listener's mind has been lulled into a state of receptive agreement, that the poison is introduced. Seamlessly embedded between these factual statements is the core lie. "And they said something to me so cold, so deliberately cruel that it has honestly left me questioning everything." The listener's brain, having already accepted the factual bread of the story, is now psychologically primed to swallow the entire narrative, including the fabricated poison at its center. This technique brilliantly disarms the listener's critical faculties. It bypasses logical analysis and appeals directly to the mind's natural desire for narrative coherence. By the time the core lie is delivered, it doesn't feel like a lie. It feels like the missing piece of a puzzle that the narcissist has so helpfully assembled. This is not just lying. It is the strategic construction of a believable fiction, a foundation of plausibility upon which the entire character assassination will be built. Once the script's foundation is laid, the narcissist engages in the chilling art of character creation, or rather, character assassination. Jung taught that the most profound psychological attacks are not those that target our actions, but those that target our fundamental being, our very essence. The narcissist does not just criticize what you did. They launch a systematic campaign to redefine who you are. They perform a dark alchemy on your greatest strengths, twisting them in the public perception until they become monstrous flaws. This is a deeply personal and psychologically violent act. If you are a person of strong independence, they will not present you as capable. They will paint you as selfish, dismissive, and incapable of true partnership. If you possess a natural confidence and a healthy sense of self-worth, they will meticulously reframe it as arrogance, entitlement, and a domineering need for control. If you are thoughtful and introspective, they will portray you as secretive, cold, and deceitful. And most cruelly, if you have finally learned to set healthy, life-affirming boundaries, they will accuse you of being punitive, controlling, and emotionally abusive. This method is devastatingly effective because, like the truth sandwich, it contains a distorted grain of truth. Every positive human quality has a potential shadow side when taken to an unhealthy extreme. And the narcissist exploits this subtle psychological nuance to create a grotesque caricature of you that is both monstrous and vaguely recognizable. This insidious likeness is what makes the character assassination so credible to those who do not know you intimately, and so painfully confusing to you. It is an attack designed to make you doubt your own character, to make you ask, is that how I really am? Is my strength actually cruelty? They are attempting to erase your authentic self from the minds of others and replace it with this monstrous effigy. It is the act of a psychic vandal, spray painting their own shadow over the portrait of your soul, so that when the world looks at you, they see only the narcissist's darkness reflected back. Finally, with the script written and the villainous character firmly established, the narcissist takes to the stage for their grand performance. Their delivery is the final crucial element that makes the entire deception work. They do not present their case with rage or aggression, for that would reveal their true nature. Instead, they embody the archetype of the martyr, the gentle soul who has been grievously wronged. They will present themselves to others not with anger, but with a mask of profound sorrow, of bewildered hurt, of a deep and abiding concern for your supposed instability. This calculated display of vulnerability is a strategic masterpiece. It is designed to activate the rescuer and protector archetypes in the empathetic individuals they have targeted as their audience. Their performance bypasses logic and appeals directly to the noblest instincts of good people, turning their compassion into an unwitting weapon against you. They create a psychological theater where they are the tragic, misunderstood hero, and you are the inexplicable villain. By doing so, they create an in-group of supporters who feel virtuous and protective for siding with them, making it nearly impossible for your true story to penetrate the wall of their self-righteous conviction. They have successfully controlled the collective narrative, and in this controlled narrative, your every attempt to defend yourself is seen not as a plea for truth, but as further proof of the very cruelty they have accused you of. The theater has become a reality, and you have been cast out, left to stand alone in the silence that follows the audience's applause. In the next part, you'll discover the terrifying internal experience of being on the receiving end of this psychological assault, and how the narcissist uses tactics like cognitive overload and emotional terrorism, not just to hurt you, but to trigger a state of psychic collapse. Being the target of a narcissist's final inverted campaign is an experience that transcends mere psychological distress. It is not like weathering a storm. It is like being placed at the very center of an alchemical fire. The heat is a relentless, consuming pressure designed to dissolve the very structures of your reality, to unmake your sense of self, and to reduce your spirit to ash. Carl Jung's work illuminates the profound truth that this assault, while born of another's shadow, is not merely a series of random, cruel acts. It is a systematic psychological process engineered to induce a state of complete psychic collapse. The narcissist, having failed to control your actions, now seeks to dismantle the very foundation of your being, your ability to think, to feel, and to trust the validity of your own consciousness. Yet what Jung's wisdom also reveals is that this fire, intended for your destruction, holds a terrifying and sacred duality, for the very same alchemical flames that can melt lead into a formless puddle are those that can purify gold from worthless ore. This assault is a crucible, and while its heat is unbearable, it is also the catalyst for the most profound purification you will ever endure, burning away everything that is not your true, indestructible, authentic self. The first stage of this process is a descent into blackness, a forced dissolution of the self. It begins with the deliberate weaponization of cognitive overload. This is more than just feeling overwhelmed by information. It is the feeling of your own mind becoming a hostile and alien landscape. The narcissist bombards you from every conceivable angle, creating a chaotic symphony of psychological attacks. You are simultaneously fighting the public battle of their smear campaign, grieving the private betrayal of your relationship, and wrestling with the internal horror of their gaslighting. Your mind is forced to hold countless contradictions at once. Your memory of an event versus their vehement denial of it. Your knowledge of your own character versus the monstrous caricature they are painting for the world. Your love for the person you thought they were versus the chilling reality of the person they have revealed themselves to be. This is not a battle of wits. It is a siege on your processing power. Jung understood that the psyche, when subjected to such a relentless influx of conflicting, emotionally charged data, will eventually begin to fracture. Your thoughts become scattered. Your memory feels porous and unreliable, and your ability to make clear decisions evaporates. This is the intended result. They want to sever your trust in your own mind. For a person who cannot trust their own perception becomes utterly dependent on the reality dictated to them by another. They are trying to make you an exile within the borders of your own consciousness. Within this disorienting fog, they intensify the invisible chains of the trauma bond. This psychological attachment, forged in the inconsistent cycle of their abuse and affection, becomes a form of psychic gravity, constantly pulling you back toward the source of your pain. The narcissist understands this with a predator's instinct. They know that the agony of their smear campaign and the profound desolation of social isolation create a vacuum of suffering so immense that your nervous system will scream for relief. They position themselves as the only possible source of that relief. They dangle the implicit promise that if you just relent, if you just return to your designated role, if you just accept their inverted narrative, the pain will stop. This is the ultimate manipulation of your survival instincts. Your brain, in its desperate search for safety, becomes conditioned to see the architect of your suffering as your only potential savior. It is a devastating internal conflict, a war waged within your own neurology that keeps you psychically tethered to your abuser even as you consciously recognize the poison they bring. This sets the stage for their most intimate and vicious tactic, emotional terrorism. This is the strategic, calculated infliction of psychological pain designed to shatter your spirit from the inside out. The narcissist, using the sacred knowledge of your inner world that you once gifted them in trust, now meticulously weaponizes your deepest vulnerabilities. Your past traumas, your most secret fears, your most tender insecurities all become ammunition in their campaign. They target these wounds with the precision of a surgeon, knowing exactly which words will cause the most profound damage, which accusations will trigger your deepest shame. This is the ultimate violation. It is a systematic poisoning of your sacred inner spaces, turning your own history against you. The goal is to induce a state of complete psychological brokenness, to push you past your breaking point where the agony is so total that you will do anything to make it cease, including the final surrender, the abandonment of your own reality in favor of theirs. This is the blackening, the descent into ash, the moment where it feels as though your very essence is being unmade, dissolved in the corrosive acid of their hatred. And yet, in the absolute depths of this darkness, something extraordinary can happen. There comes a moment when all resistance ceases, not because you have surrendered to the narcissist, but because you have surrendered to the futility of fighting their insanity. You stop trying to reason with the unreasonable. You stop trying to defend your truth to those committed to believing a lie. You stop trying to find the logic in their chaos. In this moment of profound surrender, the external battle ceases. And for the first time, you are able to turn your full attention inward. It is here, in the silent, ash-filled landscape of your psyche, that you discover something has survived. Beneath the noise, beneath the pain, beneath the confusion, there is a single indestructible point of light. It is a quiet, calm, and unshakable awareness. This is the emergence of what Jung's work calls the inner witness, the transcendent observer. This is the part of you that is aware of the pain, but is not the pain itself. It is the part of you that can observe the storm of your emotions without being swept away by them. It is the part of you that has been watching this entire tragic theater unfold with a silent, sorrowful clarity. The discovery of this witness is the turning point of the entire alchemical process. It is the beginning of the great purification. With this newfound awareness, you begin the sacred work of separation. You learn to distinguish what is yours from what is theirs. You see the torrent of accusations and recognize that is their shadow, not my reality. You feel the waves of shame and understand that is their poison, not my truth. You witness the chaos of their creation and realize that is their storm, not my soul. This is a process of washing away the years of psychological grime, of gently cleansing your psyche of the projections that have been caked upon it. It is the dawning of a profound truth. You are not the character in their twisted play. You are the consciousness that is aware of the play itself. This is the first clean breath after years of suffocation, the first ray of dawn after an impossibly long night. This is the birth of true psychological detachment, and it is the beginning of your liberation. From this purified state, a new and final transformation begins. You do not emerge from the fire as an empty, hollowed-out version of your former self. You emerge tempered, strengthened, and integrated. This is the rebirth, the forging of a new being in the heart of the flames. The energy you once expended trying to manage the narcissist's reality is now reclaimed and turned inward for your own healing and growth. The suffering you endured is not meaningless. It is alchemized into profound wisdom. Every lie they told has sharpened your ability to discern the truth with crystalline clarity. Every boundary they violated has taught you how to build sacred, unreachable walls around your own well-being. Every attempt to make you doubt your mind has forged an unshakable trust in your own intuition. And it is here that you reclaim one of the most powerful and misunderstood aspects of the human psyche: your anger. This is not the toxic, chaotic, destructive rage of the narcissist. That is the rage of a fragile ego, a tantrum against reality. The anger that is born in you now is a sacred fire. It is a clean, clear, and focused energy that rises from a place of profound self-love and justice. It is the righteous and life-affirming force that says with unimpeachable finality, "No more." It is the protective fire that guards the gates of your inner kingdom. It is the energy that allows you to sever the final energetic cords to the narcissist, not with hatred, but with a powerful and definitive declaration of your own sovereignty. This sacred anger is the return of your lifeblood, the passion for your own existence, the fuel for creating a life that is authentically yours. You realize that the fire that was intended to be your funeral pyre has instead become a forge. You were not consumed by the flames. You were tempered by them. You emerged not as a victim covered in ash, but as a sovereign being glowing with the integrated heat of your own spirit, carrying a wisdom that can only be earned in the very heart of the blaze. In the next part, you will discover how to rise from these ashes, exploring the Jungian path to recovery and individuation, and how to transform this devastating experience into the foundation of unshakable psychological sovereignty. Surviving the narcissist's final desperate war for your reality is a profound and seismic psychological achievement. But survival is not the destination. It is the raw, untamed landscape upon which a new world can be built. The journey that follows is not one of mere healing, of patching the wounds and returning to the person you were before the manipulation began. That person in many ways no longer exists. They were a necessary casualty of the alchemical fire. The true path forward is a sacred process of recovery and rebirth, a conscious engagement with what Carl Jung considered the ultimate purpose of human life, the journey of individuation. This is the path of becoming the most complete, authentic, and integrated version of oneself. The ordeal you have endured, in all its devastating cruelty, does not have to be a scar that defines you. Instead, it can become the very catalyst that ignites the most powerful and luminous phase of your soul's evolution. To heal is to integrate the wisdom born from the flames, and to finally, fully, and unapologetically emerge as the sovereign self you were always destined to become. The first and most foundational pillar in the construction of this new self is the cultivation of what Jung's work points to as the unshakable inner witness. This is a profound evolution beyond simple psychological detachment. It is the establishment of a calm, indestructible center of consciousness within your being. Imagine a lighthouse standing on a rocky shore. It does not fight the storm. It does not try to calm the raging sea or push back against the violent winds. It simply stands anchored to the bedrock and shines its light with unwavering consistency. The development of the inner witness is the process of becoming this lighthouse. You learn to anchor your consciousness in a place so deep within you that the chaotic storms of the external world and the lingering echoes of the narcissist's internal chaos can no longer threaten your foundation. From this centered place, You learn to observe your own thoughts and emotions as you would observe the weather. You can witness a wave of grief crash upon your shores, feel its sorrowful spray, and know that you are not the wave. You are the lighthouse that witnesses it. You can observe a flash of anger arc across your inner sky like lightning, and know that you are not the flash. You are the unshakable presence that perceives it. This transcendent perspective is the source of true freedom. It fundamentally alters your relationship with the narcissist's legacy. Their projected image of you, their twisted narratives, their venomous words, they lose their power to wound you because you no longer identify with them. They become psychological phenomena to be observed, patterns of a disordered psyche that you can study with a kind of sorrowful, detached compassion, but which you no longer mistake for a reflection of yourself. The attacks cease to be personal because you have relocated your sense of personhood to a place their manipulations cannot reach. This is not an intellectual exercise. It is a profound shift in your state of being. It is the quiet, humming certainty that your core self is inviolable, a silent space of pure awareness that exists beyond the reach of praise or blame, love or hatred. This is the first great act of reclaiming your psychological sovereignty. Once this inner center is established, the next phase of the work begins, the rebuilding of your inner world, the conscious architecture of the self. The narcissist's campaign was an attempt to demolish your reality and impose their own distorted map upon your psyche. Recovery, therefore, is an act of sacred cartography. You begin the meticulous process of reality anchoring, of redrawing the map of your own truth. This is why keeping records, journaling, and documenting your experiences is so vital. It is not about gathering evidence for a future battle. The war is over. It is about creating an objective, undeniable atlas of your own experience for your own soul. Jung understood that sustained gaslighting is a form of psychic vandalism, defacing your memories and making you a stranger in your own history. Your journal becomes a sacred text, a testament to your perception that says, "This is what I saw. This is what I felt. This is what was real." You further anchor this reality by seeking out the reflections of trusted, healthy individuals who act as clear mirrors, showing you the truth of your character and washing away the distorted image the narcissist tried to burn into your mind. From this grounded place of truth, you begin the most crucial work of all, forging conscious boundaries. The boundaries you create now are nothing like the fearful, reactive walls you may have tried to build in the past. Those were the defenses of a besieged territory. These new boundaries are the calm, definitive declarations of a sovereign domain. They are not born of fear, but of profound self-love and wisdom. They are not walls of stone, but living, intelligent membranes. They are permeable by choice, designed to allow the flow of love, connection, and nourishment in, while remaining absolutely impenetrable to manipulation, disrespect, and psychic intrusion. The most powerful expression of this new architecture is in your ability to wield the word no. For the sovereign self, no is not an apology. It is not the beginning of a negotiation. It is not a desperate plea to be understood. It is a complete sentence. It is a calm, quiet, and peaceful alignment with reality. It is the closing of a gate, not with a violent slam, but with the quiet, confident click of a well-made lock. You learn to issue this no without justification or explanation, understanding that you are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. This is the establishment of your sacred space, the drawing of a line in the sands of your own being that you and the world will now honor. Ultimately, the deepest healing culminates in the integration of all parts of yourself, both the light and the shadow that this experience has brought into consciousness. A core part of this is the alchemy of your empathy. Before this ordeal, your empathy may have been an unconscious and porous liability. Like a sponge, it soaked up the emotional states of everyone around you, leaving you heavy with feelings that were not your own. This unconscious empathy made you a perfect target, as you absorbed the narcissist's disowned pain, rage, and shame without even realizing it. The sovereign self, however, transforms this sponge into a lantern. Your empathy does not disappear. It becomes conscious, focused, and powerful. A lantern does not absorb the darkness. It illuminates it. You can now extend the light of your empathy to understand another's pain, to see the wounds that drive their behavior, and to feel compassion for their struggle, all without taking their darkness into yourself. You can see the storm in another person's soul while remaining firmly within your own lighthouse. This is conscious empathy, a tool for profound wisdom and discernment, and it makes you immune to the kind of emotional hijacking you experienced before. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is the consecration of your sacred anger. In a world that often teaches those who have been wronged to be passive, gentle, and endlessly forgiving, the reclamation of anger is a revolutionary act of self-love. The anger that emerges now is not the corrosive, petty rage of the narcissist's ego. That is the fire of a burning house, chaotic and destructive. Your anger is the fire in the heart of a forge, contained, focused, and creative. It is the sacred, life-affirming energy of your own soul rising up to protect itself. It is the psychic immune system activating to neutralize a threat to the organism's well-being. This sacred anger is the force that severs the final entangled energetic cords to the narcissist. It is the passionate yes to your own life, which automatically becomes a definitive no to anything that seeks to diminish it. You learn that this anger is not a negative emotion to be suppressed, but a source of immense power and clarity, a fuel that can be used to create a life of purpose and authenticity. Emerging from the crucible, the sovereign self is not a perfect, invulnerable being, but a whole and integrated one. You live from a quiet center of gravity, no longer easily pulled into the orbits of chaotic people. You possess a discernment that operates beneath the level of conscious thought, an intuitive knowing that senses manipulation and inauthenticity from a distance. You find yourself becoming allergic to drama and powerfully attracted to relationships built on mutual respect, reciprocity, and truth. The narcissist's ultimate goal was to make you a broken and forgotten character in their tragic story. But the profound irony is that in their attempt to destroy you, they became the unwilling and unconscious catalyst for your true creation. They forced you into the alchemical fire, believing you would be consumed, never imagining that you would emerge not as ash, but as gold, finally and fully embodying the sovereign being that was your birthright all along. Carl Jung's most profound insight into this entire dynamic is both simple and liberating. The narcissist's power is derived entirely from your psychological participation in their distorted reality. Their elaborate games, their terrifying tactics, and their final desperate inversion are all built upon the assumption that they can control your inner world. When you withdraw that participation, when you refuse to accept their projections, doubt your sanity, or abandon your truth, their entire psychological structure collapses. It has no power without your energy to sustain it. The final dirty trick is not a testament to their strength. It is the ultimate monument to their fragility. It is the action of a terrified psyche, mortally wounded by the light of your awareness. Jung's work reminds us that these figures are not powerful predators, but frightened children trapped in adult bodies, terrified of the vast emptiness within them. Seeing this truth does not excuse their behavior, but it liberates you from its emotional grip. When you see their manipulation for what it truly is, the desperate thrashing of a wounded soul, it loses its power to intimidate, control, and define you. Remember what Jung's discovery truly means. When a narcissist sees you as too dangerous to manipulate, it is because you have already won. Their final smear campaign is the chaotic firework display marking the end of their reign over your psyche. It is the proof of your victory, not your defeat. You are stronger than their illusions. You are wiser than their deceptions, and you are, and have always been, free to reclaim the authentic, sovereign life that Jung believed was the sacred birthright of every human soul. If you are ready to explore the next chapter of your power, be sure to click on the next video. Your journey toward complete sovereignty is just beginning.